Hey everybody, so nice to see you. Do you know what today is? Today's Earth Day. It's a holiday that people all around the world know about. And today what people do is they celebrate the world and they think about ways that they can keep taking care of our world. So I'm really, really excited to talk to you about that. And one of the ways that we can take care of our world is by recycling. And you know how we've been talking about the R's, right? The three R's. Do you remember them? Reduce, reuse, and recycle. And we've talked about reducing and reusing already, and today we're going to just talk a little bit about the different ways that we can recycle.
So here is a list of recyclable items that is only for New York City, because all different cities and states around the United States have different rules for recycling. So if we look at the green, that is talking about different kinds of paper that we can recycle. First it says cardboard, and that it can be like pizza boxes and cereal boxes and other kinds of cardboard that might be thick. If you ever get packages in the mail, that kind of thick cardboard is perfect for this kind of recycling. And then if you keep staying in the green and move over a little bit, it says mixed paper. And that can be things, like it's showing you magazines and books and newspaper. That could also be other types of bits of paper, like if you're doing drawings and art on different kinds of pieces of paper, that would also um, be in the green garbage for paper. So now let's jump over to the blue. The first word that starts with the M says metal. So that is showing a picture of pots and pans, and if you look behind the pan, you'll see a metal like dish or a kind of thing that looks like a container next to a tin can. Those are all different kinds of pieces of metal, and I'm sure that you could also find other kinds of things that are metal that could be recycled. And so that's one of the things that would go in the blue garbage, things that are made out of metal. And if you jump over to the next word that starts with a G, that's glass. And I'm sure you know what that is, right? That is bottles and things that a lot of the time you might find in the kitchen that would be thrown away after you're finished. But one thing you should know, if you have glass that's broken, I know it doesn't say it on here, but if you have broken glass, you need to put it in another little bag so then it doesn't go all around the garbage and the people that pick it up don't get hurt in case it sticks out of the bag. So the next word, if you go over starting with a P, is plastic. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of plastic around. So there's all different kinds of plastic that can be recycled. If you look at the first thing, it looks like a yogurt container, and next to that is like a drink, what do you call it? Like a drink bottle, I don't know. But like those types of plastic are not quite the same. And if you go all around that, you see different kinds, like the one that's orange-red color, that one looks like laundry detergent, like the soap that you would put in when you wash your clothes. That kind of plastic is pretty thick. I don't know if you've held one of those before, but that's a thick plastic. So there's different rules for the different kinds of plastic that they recycle. And we're actually going to talk about that more when we learn more about um, uh, people that take the garbage people that pick it up from your house. We're going to talk a lot more about that on another day. And then the last one over here, starting with the C, that says cartons. So over there it looks like there's a bottle of milk, carton of milk, excuse me, and a carton of juice. And that one looks like, well, for me, I think it's like a soup box or something like that. So cartons are the things that kind of feel like plastic, but you can squish them easily. A juice box and milk are kind of the easy examples of that. So those are an easy way to see the kinds of things that go in each type of garbage. Things that can be paper recycled or things that are metal, glass, plastic, and cartons go in the blue.
So those were ways that we can recycle the trash that we find, like we talked about the bottles, things that are glass or plastic that go into the blue garbage. And we also talked about paper in the green garbage, like cardboard and different things that can go into the mixed paper. But did you know that there's another kind of special way that we can recycle that is not those two kinds of things? It's called compost. And that's an easy way to think about that is like a food garbage. Because have you ever had some food left over when you're done eating with it, and then a lot of times you just throw it in the trash? Sometimes there's some foods that we can put into a special food garbage or compost. And I'm going to show you some pictures and talk a little bit more about that now.
So we compost for two big reasons. The first reason is when we throw our food away, it goes into the garbage, right? And then the garbage goes into a landfill, which is basically a big hole in the ground where people collect garbage and they pile it up over there. And it's not so good for the earth after a long time. It really is not the best thing to just put all sorts of different trash. And when we compost, when we save all of those food scraps and things, it helps us because it makes less garbage that goes into the landfills, right? And the second reason why we compost is just because of what I was talking about, because it can the compost breaks down after a long time, just like you're seeing in this picture. On the left side, you can see it says before, and there's all those different pieces of food. Looks like vegetables and meat and some greens in there. And then after a long time, usually about a year, on the right side where it's brown, it can turn back into soil, like when we plant seeds and regrow things. But it's not just regular soil. It's really, really strong with all of the nutrients that came from the food. So then you're able to help grow all new vegetables and fruits and plants and all these really good things, and you don't make any garbage. So when you're composting in a big city like New York, they can take all sorts of things. On the top it says food scraps. So that can be anything fruit like apples and bananas, all sorts of different kinds. And there's see broccoli there too. And they can also take meat, like there's some chicken bones and some fish, and there's pasta, eggshells. So they can take all sorts of different things. Under that says food soiled paper. That just means dirty paper. And there's napkins, used napkins, tea, plate, and some coffee. And on the bottom there it says yard waste, which is flowers, leaves, grass clippings, things that you would find outside in a garden. So, but when you're doing compost in a big city, they can take all sorts of things because they have a really strong way to take care of that. But now we're going to look at a different way if you're not in a big city, and sometimes the rules for that can be just a little different. All right, buckle up, everybody. We're taking a quick trip from New York all the way to Medford, Oregon. That's where my parents live. And over there, my mom has a mega big compost bin, and she has been working on some really good compost for such a long time. Welcome to Oregon, everybody. So now we are not in a big city anymore. My parents live in a really small town. So right here is a compost bin, and do you see how it's closed up like a box? That's because my mom does two different kinds of composting. The one that's in this box is for food scraps like meat and potatoes and like rice and pasta, things like that that kind of start to smell after a while. Because if you have those outside, guess who loves smelly food garbage like that? Yep, rodents like bugs and all sorts of different animals will come over and eat that. So they close it up and just make a little bit because you notice that box is not so big, right? That's just to keep a little bit of compost. And after a long time, after about a year, that compost that's been getting smaller and smaller over time in there gets to be really, really full of nutrients. That's very good to plant again in other compost for when they grow more food. So this is the large pile of compost that my mom has outside of the house. And in here, she puts food scraps from the kitchen, some things that they're done eating. But she's careful not to put anything like meat or rice or things that some certain bugs and animals will come to. That one that they make sure to put just in the black bin. But also, you remember in the small black container there was avocados as well. But they try to mix it so there's both. So then the composts aren't so different when they're ready to be used again for soil. But in this outside pile, there's so many things from the garden that they might be putting in there, like the leaves and sticks that they're not using for anything, as well as some of the food from the kitchen. And right here, you can see this is some of the compost that's really broken down and is almost ready to be used again for soil. And guess who is helping them get it all ready for being soil? The worms. The worms are a really big helper, and they will eat little bits of the food, and they help to make the compost ready to be soil again. And here's one that my mom found that was doing a really big job helping the compost get smaller. Look at it go. All right, let's hop on a plane and go back to New York.
Ooh, that was a lot of information, wasn't it? So now, just to finish up a little bit, let's just rethink about what we learned. So when we reduce, that means when we use less of something when we don't need to, right? Like an example that we talked a lot about is using your own water bottle. So then you don't have to use plastic water bottles, right? It's a great way to reduce how much plastic. And then we talked about reusing things. That's when you can use something over and over again for making new things. Like you remember like the lamp that I had that was made out of car parts that wasn't thrown away, or when you have something that you can keep using for a long time. And then recycle, we just talked about more today. That's when you do have to throw things away sometimes, of course, right? And recycling is so important because when you throw those things away, recycling helps remake those same materials into something else brand new. So then it doesn't have to go to a landfill and doesn't have to become trash for the world to hold on to anymore, right? So all of that stuff is so perfect that it happens today because it's Earth Day, right? So to finish up our video together today, I'm thinking of some ways that we can all maybe take care of the Earth together today. All right? Let's go around the house and take a look at some ways that we can take care of the world, okay?
When you go in the refrigerator to get a snack, think about what you want before you open it so the refrigerator doesn't stay open for so long. Got it. And when you leave the room, why not turn the light off when you're done so then you don't waste electricity? Nice job, Mr. Rubenstein. Getting hot in here? Don't turn on the air conditioner all the time. You can just open the window and save some energy that way too. Well done. The earth loves plants. Let's use some magic and make a new one. Abracadabra, abracazoo, yes! Oh yeah. And since it's Earth Day, it's good to keep the air clean and not use a car if you don't have to, so you can go outside with a parent safely. Last but not least, if you have a chance, there's supposed to be a meteor shower tonight and maybe tomorrow too. So take a look outside and see what kind of stars you might see in the sky. Ooh.